So if you're like me and you go to Costco around this time of year, they already have all of their gardening stuff out, even though there's still ice and snow on the ground. And look, I like to garden. I don't have a garden, but I'd love one, or at least I think I would. There's something about tending to the soil and the gentleness you take with plants that's almost therapeutic. And so I'm trying to start a garden on the patio of my apartment complex that I live in, and we'll see how it goes, right? But when I think of gardens this time of year, I generally think about tulips because they're one of the first flowers to come up each year, and they're my mom's favorite flower. And the interesting thing about tulips, though, is that in order for them to come up each spring, they need to go through a cold period. About 6 to 12 weeks of being cold forms in a tulip bulb the necessary elements to bloom each spring. And in many ways, that makes me think about the spiritual season that we find ourselves in, this journey through Lent. Lent is a season that leads to Easter, and as we talked about this past Sunday, it's a season of formation and deep inner work. It also takes place at the end of a cold, long, gray winter season, and that's not a coincidence. You see, seasons of formation like Lent, I think, are as necessary to the spiritual life as winter is to a tulip. It reminds me of the wisdom from the scriptures in Ecclesiastes 3, saying there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to plant and a time to uproot. Each season is good in its own time. And so in this season of Lent, in our focus on formation, friends, I wonder what parts of the wintry season is God forming in us so that we can bloom come spring? In what ways is God the gardener of our souls? And so today, I leave you with this short poem by Wendell Berry, a poet on nature and ecology. He says, "Our 10,000 days of work, harvest will fill the barn, for that hard hand must ache, the face must sweat. And yet no leaf or grain is filled by our work alone. The field is tilled and left to grace. Great work is done while we are asleep." Grace and peace, friends.